to another episode of I Hate Your Taste in Movies. This is a movie podcast where we force our friends to watch our favorite films and let the tears come. You can follow us on Twitter at I Hate Your Taste and on Instagram at Hate Your Taste Pod. I'm Jackie.
I'm Jen.
I'm Austin.
And this week we had the absolute joy, sweet joy of watching a Jen pick.
Yay! Best week ever!
Boo. I just booed because she booed me last week, so
yeah,
I felt
true.
it was fair.
It's true. It's appropriate. This week, we watched Saw, the first in a very exhaustive franchise, but we stuck to only the first one. I'm not making you guys watch any series yet. Had either of you guys seen it?
Nope.
No. But this is going to be the first in a list of movies that you're going to hate me for, because it's one that I definitely knew a lot about before I went into it.
Yeah, it's expected. It was a huge movie, so it would be hard to not know anything about it at this point.
Yeah, it's
yeah. Even I knew a moderate amount.
Yeah.
Like, I think my summary is pretty spot on.
Nice.
Not to brag, but why don't I just tell you what my summary is?
Yes, please do.
I wrote first, I know this. I wrote puppet, tricycle, ? Franchise. Kidnaps and imprisons people, and they have to try to solve some tricky riddles or die horribly. Most riddles can't actually be solved. Something about confronting your sins or weaknesses. There's a police detective in Carrie Elwes.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Now, I did think it was Marky Mark who was a police detective. I don't know why.
He's in another one, isn't he?
No, it's Johnny Wahlberg in the second one.
Oh, okay.
Boom. So, like, Hundo P. I nailed it.
Yeah, I also mixed up some of the stuff from, like, later movies in my summary for this. Mm-hmm. But, so yeah, I wrote Carrie Elwes and some other guy wake up chained in a gross basement with a quote-unquote dead body on the floor. Jigsaw, and I knew his name was John Kramer. It's a serial killer who puts his victims in traps to try to teach them a lesson about mortality and how you should cherish your life. He has cancer and is dying. And then Carrie Elwes cuts his leg off.
All right, you got that way more than I did.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I yeah.
That screams I've watched a YouTube video explaining how this
that
movie
screams
ends.
Videos and podcasts. We Are Dads, the Sarah Marshall's other podcast.
Did an episode?
They did an episode on all of the Saw movies.
I gotta check that out.
And I listened to it like a week ago, so it was pretty fresh in my mind.
You do win the Nailed It award, though, because you nailed it.
Nice.
And you made it so that Jen doesn't even really need to explain it.
No, that is the plot. So I will just start by telling you guys my origin story of the movie Saw.
Yes.
So, young teenage Jen obviously saw this in theaters the opening weekend because that is what she does. However, I went with a friend of mine who is kind of like a more dramatic version of Austin in the sense that she wants to watch horror movies but can't make it through them.
Okay.
So halfway through the movie, she got up and left the theater and then sent the ushers in to get me so that we could leave. So I didn't see how the movie ended because in retrospect, I should have just stayed and been like, I'm going to watch the rest of the fucking movie. I want to see the movie. But because I was like 14 or whatever, I was like, her mom's driving me home from the mall. I have to go with her.
That's so sad.
I know.
That is uncool. Your friend is uncool.
Yeah, she sucked for a lot of reasons, but mostly because she didn't let me see how Saw ended. So anyway, I didn't see the second half of the movie, but it had already been like promoted as having a big shocking ending, so I knew something big happened. So I asked a girl about it at school the next week, and she told me like, oh, the guy in the middle of the floor gets up and he's the killer. And I was like, oh, okay. So then when I went to actually see the whole movie later, we're getting towards the ending where you see like Zepp, the orderly from the hospital, is like the killer. And I was like, why did this bitch tell me it was the guy on the floor when it's the orderly? I can't believe she lied to me. I don't understand. So I still got by a twist ending that I knew was coming.
That's awesome.
So
that's next level.
I commend this movie for that. That was a good reveal.
Yeah.
To be honest, I agree. And it surprised me. But my very first note after the warning. My first note says the warning for this movie is pretty intense because it's like, parents beware, graphic violence. And I was like, oh shit, what am I in for?
Oh, really? I didn't see
And then
that.
the next one I said, that dead body looks fake. His head was super wrecked for a gunshot wound and there wouldn't be that much blood. So I was like already questioning it, even though I didn't know I was questioning it. However,
Yeah,
I got
you were questioning it in like, this movie has bad effects, not realizing that that wasn't a real body.
Exactly.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, we could jump right to the ending, but like, that was crazy. The ending really surprised me, and I very much enjoyed it.
That's good.
Like,
I wish I didn't know. I wish I didn't know, because it's so obvious too. When you do know the ending.
Mm-hmm. But it's all about the fact that it happens kind of in the background.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, see someone standing up, and I was like, "What the frig?"
So I rewatch these movies every couple of years. I always convince myself I'm gonna watch the whole franchise. I make it like 4 or 5 in, and then I want to die because it gets so bad. So I was like in the mood to rewatch Saw. So on this rewatch, I kind of noticed like how much they set up those things for the twist. I didn't realize how obvious it was, especially at the very beginning with the key in the bathtub. I'm like, yeah, it's so obvious. But if you don't know, I don't know. Like, I never picked up on it when I first saw the movie.
Wait, what's obvious about the key in the bathtub?
So it kind of opens with the character Adam kind of splashing around in the bathtub, and then he gets up. And you know, at the end, Jigsaw says to him the key was in the bathtub. So that opening scene when he's splashing around, you see a key on a chain that goes down the drain.
Yeah, but that was going to be one of my big questions about this movie is like, because he says the key is in the bathtub, like, but doesn't he know that it went down the drain? Like, and if it didn't go down the drain, what was the point of the key being in the bathtub? He would have freed himself in like the first 5 minutes.
But then they would have survived.
But like, did he always intend for them to survive? Was he like, the key's in the bathtub, use it to get out of here, not realizing that it went down the drain?
I think, like, when Jigsaw says it at the end, he knows it's gone down the drain at this point. So he's just saying to him, like, by the way, like, you always had the tools to escape. Because even though his traps are very elaborate, there always is a way out if you can solve it.
But he never had the key. It's gone. It's out of reach. So he didn't.
Yeah, because it went down the drain, but it didn't have to. Like, if he had not thrashed when he was getting up and accidentally kicking out the plug.
Okay. I don't get it. I don't understand why that's a morality lesson.
Not really. I do have to say I question that. I think the morality lesson was more around Dr. Gordon than Adam, because I'm not sure what Adam necessarily had to do to escape.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about why he was there. I don't think I understood why he deserved this lesson, but
I mean, he was there because he deserved the lesson, quote unquote, because he was spying on people for money, essentially, as his job, which Jigsaw found sleazy. Sure. But I think he was in that specific trap just as, like, fodder. Like, for example, in Amanda's trap, there was a guy on the ground that she had to kill to survive. Like, that guy, like, was fodder, essentially.
Yeah. Well, because his tape, Adam's tape, just says escape the chains and escape the basement or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it literally was as easy as just using the key, unlock your chains, and leave. But he fucked it up at the beginning.
I don't like... That's so annoying to me because it doesn't seem smart or clever if it was like, oh, if you had just woken up calmly, you could have unlocked your key and walked out of the door and Dr. Gordon would have been left to his own device. Like, this was predicated on such a thin razor wire of coincidence that it makes it ridiculously stupid. Like, I liked it until they said that, like, that was the key on the blue light that went down the drain. Then I'm like, well, then this whole thing is a house of cards that really shouldn't have happened in the first place. So that was very irritating. Can I ask, did they revisit this in the sequel?
In one of the sequels, I don't remember which one, because again, they all blur together at a certain point. Someone makes it back to that kind of building-y warehouse thing where this is in, and you see, essentially, like, Adam's decomposed corpse from having been left in the bathroom.
Shit, I really wanted him to get saved, like, in the second movie or something. I kind of thought, I don't know why, because I have a vague sense of these movies and how it's all twisty twist. I was like, maybe Adam is going to be a murder guy.
No, Jackie, you are on the right track in that Jigsaw does recruit people to be killers alongside him. In the second movie...
Can I guess? Because I have a total guess.
Yes.
The chick who murdered the guy.
Yeah, the one in the bear trap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could tell because she's like, he helped me. And I was like, that bitch going crazy.
Yeah. So one of the things, I think that, like, that's in the second movie, and I think that is a good kind of twisty reveal that you see that she, like, became his accomplice and helped him do things. But one of the things I hate about the sequels is that they start getting so convoluted in that way where it becomes, like, it's even hard to keep track of, but, like, there's cops who are tracking him who are secretly working with him and stuff like that. And there's a lot of, like, flashbacks and things taking place at the same time, but you don't realize until the end, and it's really confusing. But basically, he's able to recruit some people throughout his reign of terror.
Are they all people that he trapped before? Kind of, and they survive?
Some. I think some of the cops aren't people he trapped. They're just, it's hard to remember, to be honest.
Sorry, yeah.
I think they just join him because they like his cause.
I got the sense as well, just from like listening to that We Are Dads episode, that this seems like it was a series where they kind of just added a lot in retrospect that didn't necessarily, like, it wasn't planned to be that, have a series that long, and so they would kind of create things like, oh no, it's fine, like it all ties in, and so I'm assuming it gets more and more convoluted and also more and more a bit of a stretch, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Should we back up a little and talk about the...
Yeah, we went whole hog, didn't we?
Yeah, we just went straight to the ending. That's the important part. But also, like, before we move off the ending entirely, I am glad to hear that it was surprising to you, Jackie, because I did wonder how much you guys knew, like, if he was going to stand up, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was really cool. However, I will say, I knew Zepp wasn't it. He wasn't the guy. I think that's pretty clear. And I remember him saying, like, he liked being called John. And I was like, I wonder if there's a thing there. Like, I didn't think it had anything to do with the killer. I'm just like, that's going to come back later.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how. But anyway, I feel like I almost put it together unintentionally. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think the movie is telling you with very obvious cinematic hints of some things. It's leading you down that path. But obviously, you're not meant to put it all together. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
But I got close enough to be proud of myself because I don't know these things at all. I never pick up on the hints. So it's banner day for old JC.
Did I understand correctly that Zepp was doing a trap as well? Like, he had to kill them to save himself? I understood that. So I didn't know that. So that was kind of a cool element.
Okay, yeah.
Zepp didn't look upset enough, right? Like, I know it's supposed to be kind of ambiguous, so you think Zepp's the killer, but like, if you were forced to murder a woman and her child because of slow-acting poison in your system, you think you'd be like sweating or crying or like freaking out, but he's just kind of like dead-faced watching.
There are some underreactions in this movie.
With Zepp specifically, I think obviously they are trying to keep it ambiguous so that we think he's the killer until the end twist. But I did also wonder if, because he's very strange at the hospital too, if maybe we're supposed to believe that he's like just maybe a weird guy who's not all there. So that's maybe why he's not reacting the way you would expect, being told that you have poison in your veins, which again, he might not even have. Like, Jigsaw might have just told him that.
I'd be more concerned about them murdering an innocent woman and her kid. Like, that should not be easy. You should feel conflicted, Zepp. Because I was like thinking about this and I came to some pretty unflattering conclusions where I was like, if I was Amanda in that bear trap thing, I think I would just freeze. Like, I think I would be like, well, I guess I'll allow my face to be ripped off. And then I would think about it too much. And then with like 3 seconds left, then I would try and panic my way out of it. And then I would just die. Like, I don't know if I could kill, like, if it was, actually, sorry. When I thought it was a dead body and she had to get the key out, I was like, easy peasy. She has the easiest job. Like, a dead body, please. There's no problem with anyone cutting apart a dead body, I'm sure. If your life depended on it, easy. But then he was awake. And I was like, that one I don't think I could do. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, and that's... Sorry if this is weird or gross, but when she's, like, digging his stomach out and stuff, I'm just thinking, like, it's all gonna be, like, warm because it's inside your body and he's still alive. You know what I mean? Like, that just makes it so much more, like, visceral. So, and it props would be to her.
Moving.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've never had live tissue, but I've like taken the placenta and it's like frigging hot. It's so weird. Like, it's not cool to hold. You're like, oh, this is like, your body is like, this is wrong. Like, I know that this is not a thing I should be doing. on like a primal level. You're like, nope. So like you have to really, like, it's big overcoming mentally. But that's why I think I knew Amanda was going to be bad. I'm like, she's a crazy psycho because she didn't really hesitate. And I like this movie, and it's playing out that you're supposed to be conflicted about these things. It's not like the morality question is not supposed to be easy. And she was like, I will kill anyone it takes. And I'm like, that means you're not good.
Yeah. It's weird because, that one, the reverse bear trap, they call it, like, obviously not great, having your face, like, ripped in half, terrifying. But the one that always, like, freaks me out, that I hate the most, is the guy who has to crawl through razor wire. That one, really? I don't think I could do.
I thought that was another easy one.
I feel like it could be, but I don't think I could do it.
You should go real slow.
Did it upset you because the detective mentioned that he cut his femoral artery?
No, I didn't catch that. I just always remember the part where she says, like, it cuts him so deep his stomach acid's on the floor. I was like, I don't like that.
I totally did notice that also. I was wondering if anyone
excited. I got very, very excited.
Which is like, he died of massive blood loss, mostly from the femoral artery.
Yeah.
See, like...
Also, I totally do not buy that stomach acid on the floor thing, because if you saw that guy, he had a bit of a belly. Like, his stomach is like this much belly, then stomach. Like, it's not possible that it'll cut that far.
I mean, it might have been possible after he died and he was kind of like hanging. Maybe one of them, the pressure as he was starting to slide down.
That might be very true, very true.
But I don't know. That's the one that fucks me up in this movie.
I just want you to explain to me something. Like, how does the reverse bear trap work? They said it was like drilled into her face, but then when she took it off, it just came off real easy.
I think it's just a mouthpiece, isn't it? Like, your mouth is...
Oh.
Yeah, because it showed that, like, her mouth was kind of red and scraped up on the side, so I think it was, like, hooked into her cheek there.
Ooh.
And then just
that
a lot
would kill
of pressure.
You, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm like, it's not just taking your lower jaw off, it's like making your head explode, sort of.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like ripping you up that way. That was a really great demonstration for our audio listeners on our podcast.
Yeah, just like a little, just like that. A little visual. Okay, so yeah, I think that one is the worst one for me, is the bear trap. Austin, what about you?
Yeah, I think the bear trap.
What about the drills? We didn't figure out who that guy was, right? The drills approaching his neck?
No, we don't know anything about him.
I don't care. Obviously, he's like a distraction thing, but I guess the part I liked with this movie is more like why they were chosen and like their backstory and how the trap matches whatever like bad thing they did or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, what's this guy? Tell us about this guy. And then he was never seen again. He was just like random drill dude.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't get to see too much of some of the other kills in this movie because I guess we're focusing on the guys in the bathroom. But if we want to get to that drill guy, I think that it's important to talk about how that scene comes up during the cop raid. And once again, we have the worst cops in the world. Like, why does every movie we watch have such terrible cops?
Really bad. Really, really bad. And
like, they straight up are just... So they get a thing and they think they figured out Jigsaw's in a warehouse. And, the one cop is like, shall we get a warrant? And the other one is like, no, there is no time. We shall go alone, just you and I, no backup, to this warehouse where we think a violent serial killer is hanging out. And then we will discover his lair, and then as he's coming in, instead of arresting him, we will hide to see what he does.
Yeah.
Great, I'll leave the innocent victim. And he's like screaming, and they're just like, it's fine. There's only a 70% chance that you'll die, innocent guy. Don't worry about it. But yeah, and then the thing too is that just the worst cops ever, because they have him at gunpoint and they just keep like talking and not handcuffing him and looking away while pointing a gun in random directions, and like they're so easily overpowered.
Yeah. I
was so frustrated. I'm like, Danny Glover, dude, you've been doing this for like 30 years. You're too old for this shit. Like, you should have had handcuffs on him minute one. You should have been having him face down on the ground within the first 3 seconds. Like, it's baffling. And then, of course, Singh goes after him obviously the killer overpowers Danny Glover.
Slashes his throat. Yeah.
Yeah, cuts him. Did a pretty bad job of cutting his throat for a killer, but all right. And then he gets Singh. And then Singh does some real stupid cop work too, where he just like, he knows this guy makes traps. He doesn't really clear the area at all. He doesn't hesitate. And then I know they have to make it look, I guess, tense, but the way they film it, it's like he hits a tripwire and he has like 12 seconds to look up at the shotguns at the ceiling and then he gets shot. And I'm like, I feel like most cops know that if you have an instinct or you feel a tug or something like that, like you fall back and like crouch or something, right? Like you don't just blindly look around to be like, do we? You like react and do something. So I didn't buy that whole, I was like, you guys, again, Jen's correct. These are the worst cops on earth and they should be dead.
The one thing I will commend is that, you know, Danny Glover, the cop, is also a bad cop because he's convinced that Dr. Gordon is Jigsaw and chases that lead to no avail. But after this fiasco at the warehouse, they mentioned that he gets, like, discharged and is no longer a cop. So I will commend the police force for that. They were like, you did some really horrible things and people are dead. Mm-hmm. You can't be a cop anymore. And then he's like, great, I will take my singular focus to obsess over the wrong person being the killer until the end of my days.
Yep.
Right? Like, they obviously didn't give him any assistance after. They're like, you're out, pal. Sorry, your partner died and you got your throat slashed apart and you witnessed many terrible deaths, but don't have any counseling or anything. Just bye. Enjoy your pension in your shithole apartment where you obsess. But I was very surprised to see Danny Glover. Can I say that?
Yeah.
I'm like, Danny Glover's still working? That's great. Good for him.
Still, this movie's 20 years old.
Oh, ouch, my soul. You know, and now that you say that, it kind of makes sense that this was made in 2004. And it also makes sense that this is kind of a lower budget, I don't know, indie-ish, experimental-ish movie. Because it's kind of, it looks that way.
But you are right, Jackie. There's a lot of this movie that is very dated to the early 2000s. Like the fact that the bathroom is entirely blue for some reason, and all of the weird quick cut fast editing thing that was very popular at the time. It's doesn't really hold up super well.
Yeah, there's some strange transitions, I thought, that really jumped out at me. Which I could tell. I knew this movie was made on a low budget, and you could tell in the car chase scene was especially bad. And then like
so bad.
Yeah, it's rough. I saw that it was filmed by like shaking the cars and throwing a smoke machine around, and I was like, yes, I can tell that's exactly what it looks like.
And they do like a million quick like edits so that there's no like scene of someone driving. It's like 1,000 quick little shots of them driving into 1 minute, and you're just like, what? Yeah. Why didn't you just what? But yeah, it's to cover the fact that they had no money and
like there's not even like there's no exterior shots in this movie at all. Yeah. It's just like one location. And then I think they filmed it all in one warehouse where they like built the bathroom set, and then every other room was just another part of the warehouse. Like it was very.
That totally makes sense because their apartment completely looks like a warehouse.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what is this apartment this supposedly rich couple live in? Like I was like, no, it definitely, yeah. Now that you say it, I'm like, of course, it's the exact same building that they did everything in. But you know what really, the one thing that really made me think that this was low budget was that where they would do a flashback and kind of narrate it at the same time. Like Dr. Gordon's narrating stuff. And I was like, oh, it's such an old, weird choice. I did not enjoy it. It kind of took me out of the moment. But.
Yeah, like we have to get this information out there somewhere, but we don't have enough time or money to film it. So yeah. I guess we kind of covered a lot of the deaths and the police stuff. Should we get into the like main
meat? Yeah. Dudes in the bathroom. So I am kind of curious. I thought you guys might be okay with this movie because it's half police procedural, half escape room. So were we on board with the bathroom finding clues, gotta escape?
My first note is I do appreciate the escape roominess of this.
Yes.
I was trying to solve it at the same time as the characters.
Yeah, totally on board. All my notes are talking about how this is an escape room. And I'm like, it's totally an escape room. Because all of a sudden when he has the pocket note and then he, like there's riddles. I was like, I knew it was going to be riddles. Mm-hmm. But I thought they were all going to be like one contained person in a room like the rest of the kills, where it's like do this task. The two of them together but not together, trusting, mistrusting, having to work together but never really believing each other, and they each have separate clues. That part I was super into. I was so into the one-on-one. I could almost not have had any of the rest of it. Like, it could have been a totally contained movie. I'm not sure those two actors could have carried it necessarily. I also know very little bit about the trivia, but I think it was a really short production schedule. So I don't think they had a lot of time to perfect their acting method, but it kind of seemed like it was not great acting.
That is a great point. I do want to just dive into this for a second, because notoriously, famously, Cary Elwes is so bad in this movie, and I don't understand why, because of the two, he's the actor. Like, Adam, the other character, is Lee Winnell, who is the writer of the movie, and he's another writer-director.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Sorry if that was a piece of Austin's trivia, maybe, but, like, he's not a professional actor, and the other dude is in fucking Princess Bride. He's been acting for, like, 30 years, and he's so bad!
Why? Like, is there any reason for this? Like, he was really, really terrible.
I genuinely don't know, but, like, he's so bad in this movie.
I don't think he's trying to do big emotion, like crying or screaming and stuff. I was just like, oh boy.
At one point, he was like stuttering while he was cry screaming, and he was like, why? And like, it was just so cartoonish, and I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I also saw that. Yes, it was a very short filming schedule, and Jen, I'm sure you know all of this a lot better than I do, but I think it was 18 days, and a lot of the footage that they used, like, they didn't rehearse a lot of it. A lot of their, like, rehearsal takes were what ended up in the movie, so that also probably contributes to some of the acting not being top-notch.
It's so funny that Adam guy isn't an actor, because, like, he wasn't great, but his last part was really good. Like, I found that his, like, breakdown, and also, like, when he's being left in the room, his anguished scream, I was like, whew, that was a good one. He did a good job with that. So it's surprising to me, because Cary Elwes, he should have brought it. He should have been, like, the anchor.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It always perplexes me. Also, towards the end, like, before he's cut off his foot, he's acting like he's cut off his foot. Like, his face is all, like, ashen, and he, like, can't get sentences out, and I'm like, you're not bleeding to death yet. So why are you acting like you're on your deathbed?
I have a question.
What I mean?
Yeah, that might have been a mistake of theirs.
I feel like I'm not the one that came up with this question, and I'm trying to think of where I heard this, but let's take it to the floor. If he had just cut off his heel, would he have been able to slide the chain off?
Yeah, Dr. Jackie, what are your thoughts?
So you have a big bone that comes into your heel. So I don't think, I mean, if you could get through it, but you need that, well, I mean, you need it to anchor your Achilles. So I guess if you don't want your foot to function, but like there's,
I mean, it's either, the alternative is cutting it off. So is it better or worse, I suppose?
I mean, I guess anything is better than taking your entire foot off. I just don't know the angles of that, the realist, like how can you twist your foot backwards so that you can saw it? You'd be better in terms of blood loss. Also, like the whole foot cut off scene. This dude is the worst doctor surgeon ever. His shirt is not even a tourniquet. Okay, you need to get a stick. You need to twist the stick. It is not like, that's first aid 101. You can't make a tourniquet out of a shirt and your mouth, okay, friend? And then he doesn't even cut at the ankle joint, okay? You have to cut where your tibia fibula meet the other bones so that you can separate them. That's the weak point. You don't go through the long bone. That's like the hardest surface of your entire, like, it's so dumb. Also, he would bleed out immediately. Also, you can clearly see his foot in his pants when he's dragging himself around. It's pretty stupid. But I was like, you're trying to tell me this is a physician. Like, total, like, they could have done the littlest bit of research about cutting your foot off. Right?
Yeah, I will blame that on just the fact that it's a very low budget film, that maybe they didn't do enough research or special effects to do a very realistic foot cutting off scene. But in terms of, like, the character supposedly being a doctor, I do have to wonder if, like, maybe he could have found a better method than just scream crying and sawing his leg in half. Like, you know?
Do you know what the better method would have been? Like, I'm sorry to tell you this.
Because I was going to have a question about this. Go.
If you're at the desperate point, you take a big-ass cement block and you start smashing the bones of your foot.
I was going to ask that. If you broke your foot, would you be able to slide it out?
But how would he do that where he is? There wasn't...
I would say take the top of that toilet tank, get Adam to throw it over, start smashing your foot with it. I don't know if you could do it yourself, honestly. Like, you have that thing where he had to get to a real desperate point, but definitely that is a safer alternative because, again, you don't have open, draining blood vessels pouring your blood out.
Well, I don't know if this particular part was realistic, but one thing that was effective to me, because it did bother me that, like, he's barely bleeding. Like, he's got some blood on his shirt, but there's, like, no blood trail. Like, wouldn't that be an excessive amount of blood? But I did appreciate how, like, pale and, like, gross and clammy he looked. That was upsetting to me. So I did appreciate that part of it.
If say this was a perfect situation with the tourniquet and he had the world's best tourniquet, he would still be losing a lot of blood. Like, you just can't. And with zero tourniquet, which is what he had, you have like a couple minutes. Like, he would have been passed out within 2 minutes and then dead within like 6. Like, it's just gushing out.
Yeah, and so we find out that he has cauterized his wound, right? Like, in a later movie, we find out that he cauterized his wound on a pipe. Do I know this and Jen doesn't know it?
I was gonna say, I thought he bled to death outside the room.
No,
There's
he
no
lives.
Hot pipes.
He's
If there were hot pipes, they could have used them
outside of the room. He's in, I don't know. He's in another movie.
He would have been dead before he made it outside the room, but sure. Okay.
He survived somehow. He's in, I think, the last one.
He's in another movie?
Why
Did
do
they
I
give him,
know?
like, a prosthesis?
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I know that he.
I'm scrolling through IMDb looking for which other Saw film he's mentioned in. Because I could have sworn he was dead in the hallway.
I mean, he should be.
If he was dead in the hallway, that would be kind of cool if they had shown... Well, I guess he's not, because Austin thinks he's in another movie. But if he had died in the hallway, I would have liked to have seen that so we knew that there was no hope coming for Adam. And that would be, like, even more chilling that he's left locked up. Because the way it's left for me as a novice layperson, I'm like, Dr. Gordon's going to get help and come back for Adam. But that never happens.
I'm pulling up the Lawrence Gordon wiki page here. Yeah, he returned in Saw 3D as John's secret apprentice.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, brother. I didn't trust Cary Elwes from the first second I saw him, though. Like, I kind of thought he might be a bad guy. But, I mean, obviously, right away, I abandoned that because he's clearly chained up in this room. And there's, like, no benefit to it. But do you guys get that feeling when you see Cary Elwes? Like, I just don't... I don't like adult Cary Elwes.
I was gonna say, did The Princess Bride traumatize you?
I think it was Twister, honestly. He's the bad guy in Twister, and he's, like, a total douche. And I think that makes me hate him.
Sorry, I'm like literally reading what happens because I'm like, what? I thought he was 100% dead. But
I mean, this might
be... He found a hot steaming pipe and pressed his wound against the pipe to cauterize it. You're right. That is stupid. I might not have seen Saw 3D.
I mean, it makes more sense that he died. Because then I'm like, well, then Adam shouldn't have died because Lawrence
got help.
Should have gone and got help. Yeah.
No, because it says Jigsaw, like, got him right there. Because Jigsaw's leaving the room,
Fair
right?
enough.
He shuts the door and goes into the hallway, and Lawrence is there cauterizing his wound, and he's just like, what up, buddy?
So, doesn't Lawrence go back to his wife and family?
Neither.
I don't know, because I didn't want to finish reading that Wikipedia page. If we ever cover Saw 3D, we'll discuss it. Let's
not.
Yeah, let's just focus on the contents of this film, because if we get into, like Austin said, a lot of it, like, goes back later and becomes really convoluted and they're making it up as they go along. So let's not worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. But, like, were you guys on the same page as me where you wanted Adam to win? Like, were we rooting for Adam?
No.
I don't know. It's hard because I don't remember what I would have thought initially. Like, I've seen it so many times now and I know that no one wins. Again, going with the real ending of this movie where they both die. That's kind of what I like. I like that it has that nihilistic ending, which I don't always like in movies, but sometimes I'm like, yeah, it makes sense that there is no way out and they both just die. Like,
yeah,
it's very bleak.
I wasn't rooting for either of them, really. I wasn't not rooting for them. I mean, I knew what happened, so I guess that is another problem, but I didn't necessarily want either of them to die.
Yeah, I didn't want anyone to die, but I was like, once I knew that Gordon's mission was to kill Adam, I was like, well, I hope he doesn't.
I like that he never even, like, thought about it, though, until, like, the very end. Like, it was never...
Yeah.
mentioned until the very end, and, like, Adam didn't say anything. Yeah, I don't think it ever really crossed his mind to do it until what we saw at the end. Like,
yeah, and even then I don't
right.
think he ever intended to. Like, he knew he was, like, I wondered if Gordon and Adam had talked about it with the lights off again, but, like, if it gets to the point where I'm going to shoot you, like, I'm going to shoot you in the shoulder, you should play dead.
right.
Do you think that they discussed?
Yes, I think they did, because Adam does kind of play dead until Zepp is in there and he kind of grabs at him. So I think that was, like, intentional, that he was like, okay, I know I have to play dead now that I've been shot in the shoulder. Although, I don't know how you would do that, because I think if I was shot in the shoulder, my brain would kind of just be like, ow, 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 and not like, remember the plan, lie down and stay still.
Also, he couldn't have used his shattered shoulder to smash Zepp's head open, even with adrenaline. Like, you need bones and muscles to function.
Maybe he missed. Maybe he didn't really. Maybe it just grazed, because he was, like, bouncing back and forth a lot.
They showed it. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, you see it from behind, I think, where there's kind of bloody, so. But yeah, maybe it wasn't his shoulder. Maybe it was, like, his arm. Jackie, is that better or worse?
Way better.
I feel like we've jumped over the place so much. I don't know what we haven't talked about.
I was just going to bring up the horrible ass puppet. Like, why? Why? Why did you choose this horrible puppet? It's so awful.
It's so funny because I actually, like, kind of forgot about those quote-unquote scary elements of the movie. Where, like, the puppet's on the tricycle and, like, the pig mask in the closet and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, like, that's all in this movie. I kind of forgot.
What the hell are we supposed to believe about the puppet on the tricycle? Like, what even is that? Puppets can't ride a tricycle.
No, it's, like, remote controlled.
How?
I don't know.
I've never seen a remote controlled tricycle. And I mean, how do you keep a puppet sitting upright on it?
He builds all these crazy traps. I find that the least far-fetched.
Yeah, I found that the weirdest because it moves its head. It's like a robot. I'm like, did you make a Johnny Five type style puppet robot to, like, carry out your bidding? Such a weird. When it came out on the tricycle, I was like, you lost me.
When you mentioned the pig mask, though, that was shocking. I did not expect that. When he's, like, crawling out of the car,
yeah,
that was legitimately freaky as fuck.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's because you have a car. Yikes.
Well, I couldn't make out what we were looking at because you see it in, like, one of those corner mirrors. Again, corner mirrors ruining everything. Is he crawling out of Carrie Elwes' car? Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Backseat.
Oh, yeah, and then, like, in the back seat, so he's crawling out to come up from behind him. Which, I love that scene because he's in a parking garage, and I'm like, what if someone else sees you? What if the security cameras see you? And then you're kidnapping this grown-ass man, like, throwing him, in the trunk of his own car. People can very easily see you in your fucking pig mask.
Very
Adam was there.
I think Adam had, like, gone the other way. Because he was like,
really
got my photo, I'm leaving.
That's so
dumb.
All
these things hang on, like, hoping people do things.
I think Jigsaw at this point knew Adam was, like, a pawn in his game or whatever, so he probably was like, okay, Adam's here, I'll make sure he leaves, and then I'll jump out of the back seat. Because otherwise, maybe he could have waited till the doctor had, like, driven out of the parking garage and was somewhere else, and then, like, come up behind him in the car.
Yeah, I thought it was a strange choice to leave the car to attack him. If he was already in the car, seems like your better option, but okay. I've realized that if one thing in movies that always creeps me out is a door opening slowly when you don't initially see what's coming out of it. And that happens in this movie. The car door and then the closet. And that's what fucking got me in the Babadook too. So that is a scare that will get me every time.
That closet really was awful. And then again, it was like whatever movie you made us watch with the eye.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's Black Christmas.
Yeah. But then they lost me right after that because the mystery figure is, like, shrouded in a sheet.
So that, like, it wasn't necessarily scary, but it was really upsetting to me. Like, for whatever reason, that shot of him, like, crouched over his daughter, like in a blanket or whatever it was. Like, it creeped me out. Speaking of bad disguises, was Jigsaw wearing a fucking boxing robe the whole time? Because that's what it looked like, and it was
At like
so
the
dumb.
warehouse.
Yes.
That did also make me laugh too, where he's like coming up the elevator in his own like abandoned warehouse where he's doing murder, so clearly no one else is around because someone would have noticed the screaming. But he's still wearing his like cloak with his hood up. It's so funny.
Boxing robe is the perfect definition.
That's
like
what
it's
it
exactly
was.
it. It's like a satiny like cloak with a red trim.
Yeah.
But then I thought of this too because I wanted to ask you guys, because it does make no sense that he's wearing this. So does he already know the cops are there?
You'd have to assume he'd have some kind of like alarm.
Security?
Yeah, some sort of camera situation.
But also the way he comes in seems very blithe, you know? He's unconcerned when he rolls in. So
It's true. But then he also has the switchblade on him to cut the cop's throat. So maybe he was playing along with their ruse where they were like, let's hide and see what he does. And he's like, let's see what they do. And
maybe.
Yeah, I'm inclined to believe he knew that they were there.
Yeah. In my mind, I feel like I gave him too much credit, I guess, but I feel like he would have had his whole shop booby trapped. So like the cops came in and then they're in another game, you know? Like he hasn't set up that if at a flick of a switch, they're all trapped. But, you know, obviously he knew something was happening because he has the tripwire and the shotguns. Like there are booby traps in this apartment. They didn't get triggered until the last second somehow.
yeah.
But correct me if I'm wrong, throughout the whole franchise, we're supposed to believe that Jigsaw is almost omniscient. Like you can't fool him. He's always one step ahead. You know, he always thinks of every eventuality and wins, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So I don't really need, I guess we don't need to question anything he does. Whether he knew they were there or not, he always had 6 plans in place that could have killed them.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like, but I also don't like. I don't like the omniscient bad guy where they are always a step ahead.
I feel like in this movie it works, but I feel like that might start to fall apart further down the road. But in the context of just the first Saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just meant that in this movie, his omniscience isn't to the point where it's unbelievable.
Right.
You can still be like, he's a clever dude. He thought about this a lot. He planned it, and it worked out for him. But I think as it goes on, it becomes less and less clever and more no one could have thought this far ahead.
Yeah, very true. And one thing I do like about this is that it's clear that there's been a lot of time between the kills, because I think Dr. Gordon says that it was 5 months ago that the police arrested him, or not arrested him, but questioned him about it. So in those 5-month intervals, or that 5-month interval, Jigsaw was setting up the bathroom trap. So it's not like he has a million things that he's just, I'm so omniscient, I can do everything. It's no, every 6 months, I do one really elaborate kill, and then I go back to the starting board.
I have a question about when Dr. Gordon is being questioned. Would he be allowed to watch them questioning Amanda through two-way mirror? I don't feel like that's allowed.
I don't think it's allowed. Again, they're terrible cops. I think they're intentionally doing it because he still thinks Dr. Gordon is the killer, so he's trying to do it to see how he reacts, to try to be does he act suspicious?
Yeah.
But it's very unfair to Amanda that she is brought back in to relive her trauma for no reason.
Yeah. No, I know that's why they're doing it, but I'm this is fucking stupid.
And they put her in danger. If you think he's the bad guy, it's hey man, here's the witness you need to kill.
Yeah.
This is so wrong on all the levels. But it's basically just, there's no benefit to it really. It's just hey, Dr. Suspect, here's all the pieces of evidence we have against you. What do you think about that? He's great, now I know exactly how to foil you, and you get nothing from this. So that whole thing was a really poor way of getting her story on tape. And
even if they had not brought her in, but he was here's our video testimony from the only survivor, and then played a videotape of her, I would maybe allow that more than them literally bringing her in.
Yeah.
On a minute's notice, because they just picked up Dr. Gordon, and then Danny Glover's hold on, let me go call Amanda, and be you have to come in and tell us again about the time you almost died.
How long did we say had passed between then and the interrogation?
I'm not sure.
Okay, because I thought it was pretty recent, but the way you're talking about it makes it sound like it was a bit longer.
Well, I don't think it was like that day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking a couple weeks because she had like scabs on her face, so that
Okay.
takes a little bit of time.
I like how this podcast has just become Movie Cops Suck.
So many bad ones.
There's a lot of good ones, you guys.
Haven't seen any.
I haven't seen one.
What about Keanu in Speed?
I mean,
I thought for sure you were going to go with John McClane.
He's not a great cop.
Not a good cop.
Even I know that. He makes a lot of dumb decisions.
One thing I liked about the movie was some of the sound effects. There were like parts of this movie that I found genuinely affecting. Like, I don't know if it's just because it was such a low budget and so they really had to amp up certain elements of it, but the ones that got me, well, first of all, I loved the sound. This is an old tech alert, but like when they were rewinding the tapes, I highly enjoyed that sound. That was
Like that.
yeah. But when was the one? Oh, when Zepp is using the stethoscope on Lawrence's daughter, and you hear like the heartbeat and stuff, and that was like, I don't know, it's just a cool way to build some tension, and then like having it stop very suddenly. And then there was a moment as well. What was the other thing that I made a note of? Oh, when they're cutting the chains or trying to cut the chains right at the beginning. I hate that sound. I had to plug my ear at one point, just the one. But I literally had my hand over my ear for a good chunk of it. Like that sound was like worse than nails on the chalkboard.
It's terrible.
Right? But like that was effective. And then I liked how some of the music was weird. Like it was like felt very early 2000s, I guess. But when Detective Singh is chasing Jigsaw out of the apartment or warehouse, wherever he is, and there's like this like crazy chase music playing, and then he shoots Jigsaw and Jigsaw falls, and the music stops like right as he gets shot. I don't know, it was just a really cool, like it jumped out at me. So I liked some of the sound design elements of it.
That's cool.
I didn't realize the music stopped right when he got shot.
Yeah, it was like a very abrupt silence.
That does sound cool. I wish sometimes I could appreciate these things in real time, but looking back, I'm like, yeah, that would be cool if it existed in my brain.
Same. I'm like,
However.
There was music in that scene? I did not pick up on this.
It was a really funny, like, 2004 rock. I don't know how else to describe it.
Linkin Park, maybe?
Yes,
Limp
yeah.
Bizkit?
Yeah, I was going to say, so maybe some, like, Limp Bizkit-esque.
What you were saying, though, about the child actor who played his daughter,
Mm-hmm.
I was upset watching her. She seemed so terrorized. I was like, either this kid deserves an Oscar or like intense therapy. They were so mean to her.
Yeah, she did a good job. I thought she was
She did
one
a
of the
great
best
job,
actors
but
in the movie.
She was the best actor in the movie, hands down. But like, I'm worried about her future. That was so realistic and like sad. I didn't. If I was this kid's adult guardian on the set of this movie, I'd be like, everybody stop right now. Like, she's clearly gone past the point of okay. Also, hot take, Monica Potter is a really bad actress. Like, I've never seen her act once where I wasn't like, oh my God, you are bad at this.
I only know her name. I don't think I know any of her movies off the top of my head.
I was just trying to think. Like, I know her. Like, I recognize her name. I recognize her face. But I can't think of what I know her from.
Have you ever seen the movie with Morgan Freeman, Along Came a Spider?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she's in that. And she was in a weird movie, I think, where she was like living in an apartment with models, and she was supposed to be like the not model
With
one.
Freddie Prinze Jr.? Is it that?
Was it with Freddie Prinze
Head over
Jr.?
heels?
Oh my God.
That, and then I was like, is she in Head Over Heels? And then I was like, no.
That is such an early 2000s movie where it's like, look at this gross, hideous bag who lives with a bunch of models, and it's Monica Potter. Like, go to hell. She could have stepped up her acting game. Maybe she would have had a better career. But like, I just don't even buy her in this movie at all. She's like, I'm mad at you. We are having marital problems. And I was like, all right, what are you talking about?
It bothered me that when the daughter was like, there's a man in my room, that was like brushed over real quick.
Yeah, and like, I know it's clearly established the daughter has nightmares because the
Right.
mom says something like, oh, she has another nightmare, but like, wouldn't, especially because she wakes the mom up to be like, there's a man in my room, your brain isn't like fully awake thinking clearly yet. You'd probably be like, sorry, what? Like,
Yeah,
what?
At the very least, go like make sure she's okay. Like, okay, daughter, we'll check the closets, we'll check under the bed, like pacify her at the very, even if you think it's a nightmare. Like, we could have solved this situation. I mean, it probably still would have ended up with some death or kidnapping, but like,
yeah,
but
check the closet. Oh, here's Zep.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Lawrence is still home. Like,
yeah,
the three of them could have overpowered Zep. That's not even a question.
Yeah. So that bothered me. I was like, we didn't really address the man in the closet problem. Can we deal with this, please? Yeah, that was very creepy. I wish there was more Tobin Bell in this movie, though.
Yeah, Jigsaw himself is like not really in this movie.
I don't know, but I keep hearing how amazing he is in these movies, and I was like, I wanted more of him. I wanted to experience John Kramer.
Yeah, you get more of him in the sequels, I think, because in this one, obviously, they're keeping it as the twist reveal of who Jigsaw is. You don't really get to see a lot of it. But yeah, he is great. I do like him. Shout out to Tobin Bell.
And he was there were no dummies. The only dummy that was used in this movie was the burnt up corpse, like, of the trap that he blew up. So all the corpses were played by actors. So he was lying there in all of the film and all the scenes. That was him laying there. But can we talk about that? Because how does a man lay that still for that long?
So I can tell you my assumption. I don't know if you guys agree with this or not, because I realize, like, there's nothing to base this on. It's just the way I explained it in my mind. Do you know the guy that Amanda had to kill? They said he was on some, like, opiates where he couldn't move or anything like that. I assume Jigsaw had drugged himself.
Oh. And maybe
so that he wasn't moving for, like, 2 hours or something because he was so fucking high. Because he's also, as we know, dying of cancer. So he's probably got access to some hardcore painkillers.
Sorry, I don't think that he would take himself out of the game. Like, what if things changed and he needed to improvise?
True. But I was thinking more, because they have a few hours, I think.
That's what I was going to ask.
To solve their puzzle. So I think maybe if he's like, okay, the first 2 hours, I'll make sure I'm out of it. And then I'll get up and they'll have been doing something.
I just like the idea that he's so crazy, disciplined, committed, that he would be able to lay completely motionless.
And I guess he's out of reach of both of them. So that's important.
And I think, distracted. Like, that's what I was going to say. I think at the beginning, they might be looking at him to be like, oh my god, it's a dead body, which is why maybe I think he'd want to be still at the very beginning. But then after that, they're so distracted finding clues and threatening to kill each other that they might not notice if he, like, shifts ever so slightly to take a breath.
Yeah. But I actually was wondering that when I first saw the body. I didn't really think about it very much until this moment. But the body is in such a way where his left foot, I believe, the toes are kind of curled under.
Right.
He's not laying flat. So now if I watched it a second time, maybe I would focus on that foot, because that is not a position an alive, faking dead person could maintain. Like, it would cramp up quick.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. If he was still with his foot curled towards the end, then he was probably under the influence of something. Interesting. But so we're supposed to believe that this brain tumor has made him insane?
I don't know. I don't want to get into the sequels because I don't remember them super well. But basically, he's got this horrible cancerous brain tumor. And I believe what happened is that there was a fuck up in the medical system where it wasn't caught when it should have been. And that's kind of what makes him not crazy, but I guess enraged, where he feels like, because someone's negligence caused this, I have to, like, fix society by, like, killing bad people or forcing people to be better through my own weird twistedness. Like, that's kind of, I think he's a crazy person, but I think his motivation is that he got kind of fucked over by the medical system.
So he was crazy before. This just gave him, like, direction.
Yeah, I don't think he was killing people before, but I think this was, finding his purpose.
And are we supposed to believe that it was Dr. Gordon's fault and that's why he was put in this room?
This might be something that comes up in one of the later films that I don't really know or remember. It might have been that Dr. Gordon was involved and that's why he was fixated on him.
Again, guess what? I want more explanation. Like, I want to know why these people were chosen and why any of his victims were chosen.
You can get a lot more explanation if you watch all 75 films. I would not recommend. I would say you could watch the second and the third.
I mean, let's be honest.
You're not going to.
Never.
But, like, those ones I think are still good.
Okay.
But I cannot vouch for anything past that.
So, my other question, do we really believe that somehow Gordon is going to dip a cigarette in poison blood, give it to Adam, and Adam's not going to notice that it's covered in blood and he's going to smoke it?
Their plan had a lot of holes in it. Also, like, how do you know what poison it is, how fast it would act, how you would react through smoking it? Like, it just didn't really work. And then Adam kind of just, like, choking and falling immediately after one inhale. It's like, you're really,
that was very funny.
He is so good at acting bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally what some schmo would be like, oh, I have to act a death scene. It's so pathetic and bad. I was, like, embarrassed to watch it, which I know is the point.
Yeah.
But, like, if you're bringing a cigarette to your mouth, like, you still see that it's not all white. I think red would stand out.
You'd be like, oh, did blood get on this somehow? Guess I'll still smoke it.
Ugh. Do we think that's actually what Jigsaw intended with this note and the cigarettes? Was like, use what's around you. There's more than one way to kill an atom or whatever.
I don't know. I do think that's what he's implying. But I'm not sure what he thought was going to come from that. Because I love the idea of Jigsaw, like, lying there trying not to snicker to himself as he's pressing the, like, buzz button to make him, like, have an electric shock. Yeah. He's like, these fucking losers think they're getting away with this.
Do you think that Jigsaw had the button or Zepp had the button?
I assumed it was Zepp, but maybe it was Jigsaw.
I thought it was Zepp, too.
That makes sense, but I'm choosing to imagine Jigsaw chuckling to himself on the ground pressing a button. So, like, don't take that away from me.
Because he has
like a buzzer on his palm sort of thing?
It's got to be something like that, because he's got a gun in one hand and the tape recorder in the other.
Yeah.
Also, that blood was fake, so it wasn't really even poison.
There could have been poison in it. I don't know, Jackie. I don't know how poison works.
Clearly.
He's also a doctor and probably could have figured out that wasn't real blood, but who knows.
Maybe it was real blood, but just not from Jigsaw.
Yeah, it could have been like pig blood or something. Or, you know.
Right.
Or he's like, I had a trap last week that drained someone of their blood. I'll just pour that down in the
The razor wire guy.
Yeah.
It all collected
into
a little bucket
underneath.
Can we talk about a scene that I enjoy for multiple reasons now? Because it's also, at the time, I was like, ooh, this is scary. And now I'm like, this is hilariously stupid. And it's when Adam's getting abducted in his apartment.
Okay.
Where he goes in, and then the lights turn off, and he's using the camera flashes as light, classic, and then finds a creepy laughing doll, and then continues to search through his apartment and doesn't immediately fucking leave.
Yeah. And then he decides to, like, beat up the doll, and it's like, maybe think about who put the doll there.
What is happening? Someone is in your apartment.
The doll is inanimate, as creepy as it is. Like, it's not the threat. Can we focus? I will say that whole light flash, very scary. I don't like that.
I love it. It's always, like, it's kind of like a trope that happens in a lot of movies, but I always love it. It's always cool to have, like, the light flash and you only see something for a second. Oh, so good.
Terrifying.
But yeah, the fact that, like, someone cut the power to your apartment and then put in a doll. Like, if the power was out in my apartment, I would be like, oh, okay, let me go see what's going on. Because sometimes the power goes out. It happens. Mm-hmm. But then if I go into the next room and there is a doll there, like, even the person who lives in a haunted apartment and doesn't care, would fucking run for my life.
That was my note. I was like, how fucking terrifying would that be? Like, Jesus Christ.
My nightmare.
All right, what else? What else we got to talk about, guys?
Oh, yes, I did want to do, this is sort of just like my own personal impassioned defense of Saw, because I think it gets unfairly lumped in with the torture porn genre, and this movie is not torture porn.
No, it is not.
This movie is a thriller that has a couple graphic scenes, and then some of the sequels and a lot of the knockoffs of this movie that come later do fall into that category of bad movies that are just trying to gross you out and shock you. This is not one of them.
Yeah, I agree.
I will agree with that. Because I was expecting torture porn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was expecting all of the traps to go wrongly and show everything. Like, I expected bear trap face to be very visual and happen in camera. And, like, the burn trap, it's not that graphic. The razor wire guy, you barely see anything. The only one that kind of you see it is the shotgun trap, and you still don't really see the victim. You just see, like, the aftermath, the blood, the body fall. So, like, what I was expecting was a lot of close-up face explosions. Yeah. So it's definitely not as bad as I thought. Like, I will definitely say that off the top. This was much less gruesome than I was expecting and have been led to believe Saw movies are in general. So I think you're really right. Like, this movie, standalone, not torture porn.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I think some of the sequels get into that territory. Like, some of the traps become very, very kind of like visceral and gross. And weirdly enough, Jackie, I think you would be fine with this, but the third Saw movie has an extended like brain surgery scene, and that is the grossest thing to me.
Like awake brain surgery?
Yeah, like someone is having their brain operated on.
While they're awake and they're talking?
I think so.
Isn't there one where like the key is like
it happens a lot.
Eye or something?
Oh, maybe.
Why do I know all the traps, but I can't?
Because you just listened to a podcast talking about the entire series. I'm reading an article today about like, you know, the torture porn genre of the early 2000s and some of the movies it mentioned, which I completely forgot existed. Did any of you, maybe Austin, this might have been your era, do you remember a movie called Captive with like Alicia Cuthbert and she's like locked in a room for days and tortured?
Oh, I thought that was Hostel. No, I don't know Captive. Which...
Is that just it? That's just the movie?
Yes!
Like, watch a girl get tortured?
Yeah. And I was like, I forgot all about that. That movie was bad.
Who is in Hostel? Because I knew Alicia Cuthbert was in one of these torture porn movies, and I just assumed it was Hostel. Whoops.
I don't know, the first Hostel movie's all dudes.
Oh, okay, well, there you go.
That is kind of interesting, actually. It's always helpless women.
I mean, same with Saw.
Dudes killing dudes.
Everyone that dies is a man in this movie.
True.
Interesting.
Yeah, let's kill all men. Kidding.
You're right, though. There's not a single woman who dies.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No.
Awesome.
Right?
Love it.
This woman
Subversive, different.
This movie is a feminist icon. Feminist icon Jigsaw.
It doesn't pass the Bechdel test, though, does it?
The mom and
the daughter.
Who both have names.
Just sort of, I guess, similar on that note. It kind of reminded me when you joked that Jigsaw was like a feminist killer. It reminded me that I heard a while ago on a podcast I was listening to a take that this is kind of a right-wing movie because Jigsaw is doing moral judgment on, like, drug addicts, people who attempt suicide, like, homeless people. He's kind of like, these are the dregs of society who need to, like, pull themselves together and live better lives. And I was just wondering if you guys took anything away like that.
I mean, he's definitely making moral judgments on these people. He's deciding whether their lives are valuable or not, or whether they're making poor decisions or not, I should say. But I don't know if I would have made the connection that it's like a right-wing movie, but yeah, it's definitely, he has a God complex, obviously. That's not hard to see. But yeah, I think it's like the moral aspects of it, like who is he to say?
Mm-hmm.
And also because he's dying, so he's like, well, like, you're wasting your life. Like, I don't know his background at all, but I'm wondering if we can say, like, he thinks that he's a good man, and so why is he dying? Meanwhile, there's, like, drug dealers or drug addicts just wasting away, and, like, why aren't they the ones getting cancer or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Which, like, again, like, I didn't think of it this way until I heard that argument being made, but that is kind of a very, like, conservative right-wing viewpoint of like, we're moral people, we deserve more, you're the dregs of society, why should my tax dollars help you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I see that argument. Like I said, I did not see it when I initially watched the movie, but when I heard it, I was like, oh, I do see that, where Jigsaw is
I guess.
trying to be a moral compass in a very specific way. And also, like, this movie came out, like we said, 2004. This kind of era of George Bush's America, a lot of movies had a weirdly conservative bent, so I'm not super surprised to have that kind of in there.
I just don't buy it. No, I think like a purely left-wing psycho person would still do the same thing. Like you see people wasting their lives, and if you are dying and you're looking to punish someone who is very obviously stereotypically not appreciating their life, like that's just the easiest target to choose regardless of your political ideology. It's easy, it's obvious. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's like a reading that can be applied after the fact. I would be surprised if it was something that they went in making a commentary on.
No, of course. Like, I don't think they sat down and were like, you know what I hate? Like, drug addicts. But it is just kind of one of those things where it's supporting a specific worldview, I guess. Whereas, like, I get what you're saying, Jackie, but I think if you were writing, for example, a left-wing killer, you maybe wouldn't have them going after people for those motives.
Again, it maybe goes to him being omniscient and all-powerful, but, like, it's easier to prey on a low, non-prioritized, victimized population like drug addicts, sex workers, things like that, right? It's the reason why they are the target of most crimes, because people don't notice or care when it happens, right? So I still think any killer would try them first.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
Makes me sad to say it out loud, though.
Sad reality. Another thing they mentioned on that podcast was a comparison that makes a lot of sense to me now, but I didn't realize at the time, which is like Saw is kind of an amped up version of the movie Seven.
I thought of that.
The serial killer who is lots of moral pontificating and is trying to put his values on society, and like the elaborate sort of symbolic kills, and like the cops trying to find him, and then the cops are also like brought into it. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I would call it an amped down version of Seven, though. Like dumbed down.
Yeah, so when I say amped up, I meant like maybe a little more creative in the kills, but not as amped up as in a better version. It is a worse version.
I just think about the tension in Seven. Like when I saw that movie, I was like freaking out.
I need to rewatch it. It's been so long since I've seen it.
Me too. It's been like 10 years. Like it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember how like that's a very big difference in this movie. Like in this movie, I was like, oh, I'm scared. In Seven, I was like, I am terrified. Like, oh my God, I can't watch this anymore. It's too much.
Going back to some of the like gore aspects of this, just kind of Seven sort of jogged my memory, because that's movie's pretty gross too, but in different ways. What I kind of liked about Saw was that you didn't see a whole lot, because you asked us before about like the torture porn and stuff, and like for me, I found this really effective, but I was able to watch it. Like if it was so I was able to enjoy it, and I was still able to be like grossed out and like really uncomfortable, like when he starts sawing off his foot, like whether or not it's realistic, it's really upsetting to watch. But I managed to watch the whole thing because it wasn't graphic enough that like, you know what I mean? Like it was just the right amount of graphic for me, where it's like, I don't like gore especially, but I'm gonna go in, like I'm gonna watch this movie, and I was able to. And I don't know if I'm making sense, but it was just something that I thought about.
No, that's another reason why I thought this would be a good pick for you guys, because it is very accessible. Like, it was a wide release blockbuster hit. Like, anyone can watch this. It wasn't going to be too much. When I give you ones that are too much, I will let you know in advance.
Have you not given us ones that are too much already?
No, I have not.
Oh, Lord. This was pretty easy. I agree with Austin. Like, this was something I didn't have to really cover my face. I think I watched all of the quote-unquote gross parts, which is very rare for me. So, a decent choice all around.
I think we've covered everything in a weird order, but we've got there.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have much more to say.
None of my notes were particularly insightful. They were just...
Me neither. Except for, oh God, of course it's an old mannequin factory. Creepiest place on earth.
I wrote ye old cell phone, LOL, when he pulled the cell phone out of the thing.
What about the Discman that he was using?
Yes, I remember. I noticed that too. He's carrying his Discman into his apartments. Those were the days.
Don't even understand why he's like, this phone is only meant to receive calls.
I'm like, is that a thing?
Did you try? Did you maybe like go to the settings menu, connect to network.
Yeah. Is that a thing?
I don't think so.
I don't remember how 2004 cell phones
Pretty
worked.
sure if a phone can call in, it can call out. It's not a payphone. Like, it's a cell phone.
High points, low points? Is
Yes.
that what we do next?
Yeah. So my high point is just one specific scene, but it's like a trope that I love when it happens in movies. It's a little bit convoluted, but it's when two people are like looking at each other and one person's on the phone and is getting information about the other one or the circumstance or the situation, and they're both staring at each other and like it's dawning on one of them and the other one's confused. I don't know why, but I love that they're staring at each other, but one person knows more and they're trying to gauge whether they can trust each other, what this means. It's very tense, and it's not something that happens a lot in movies, I guess, because it needs to be a very specific situation. But when I like it, and I liked when these guys did it, when, you know, Jigsaw's telling Gordon about Adam's past and how he's following him and not to trust him, or no, the wife's telling him not to trust him, but whatever it is, and Adam's just like, what is he saying? And it's crucial information that he's not getting. I love it. I don't know what it is about that type of scene, but that was the high point for me. That whole play of emotion on both of their faces, even though not great acting. And the worst part, like my low point, is totally when Dr. Gordon is hearing his wife and kids scream, and like, you know, Zepp is supposed to be killing them, or someone is supposed to be killing them. They're supposed to be in trouble. But he like loses it. And they're not dead.
Yeah.
They're screaming and fighting and wrestling, and like they have a chance, and he just shatters completely and starts like sobbing and like throws the phone away out of reach and starts shooting at him. And I'm like, there's still a shot here. Like, trust your wife a bit. She's fighting back. Like, she's now got 50-50 odds of getting out of this. Like, why are you losing your control now of all times? And the acting is bad. So I don't know what to say about it, but I just didn't buy that was like the way the sequence of events would have unfolded. And it comes back to another thing they keep doing is when they're done with the tool, they just throw it. I'm like, you might need that later. You have very limited resources. Keep stuff within arm's reach. Anyway, like when they break both their saws or whatever, they just toss them.
Yeah.
I'm like, it still has a blade. You can still use that.
Or like that little key at the beginning where they try it on their lock, it doesn't work, and then Adam just like tosses it, and I'm like, buddy, that might be the lock for the door. You might need that. Like,
right.
What are you doing?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess my overarching one is the one where they don't keep track of their tools properly. Yeah. But really I just didn't like the way it got from, you know, now is the time when everything happens and shooting and Zepp, and I didn't buy the way it unfurled. So that's my low point.
That makes sense.
Austin? Yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm having a hard time coming up with ones for both of them. I mean, the shot of Jigsaw standing up at the end, classic high point. I didn't know how. I knew it was coming, but I didn't know how or when exactly. I didn't realize it came so late in the game, so I was getting excited for it, and it was still effective. And then when he like ripped off his like prosthetic thing, that was very creepy. And like there were a few I mean, this is a horror movie, so I'm going in like looking for the scares, and there were a couple that I mentioned earlier, like the door opening in the closet, the car door opening. Those both got me. So like there were a few moments of, and I liked that I was able to watch it. There were a few moments that were scary, but I was able to watch the whole movie. My low point, this is like right at the beginning when they're getting the tape player out of Jigsaw's hand, and he's like, use the plug or whatever, and he like uses the bathtub plug to like latch it on to the tape recorder, but it's like fairly far away, and I'm like, how the fuck? It kind of gave me, is it Evil Dead, where he's like with the necklace and he's like,
oh yeah,
latch it over the book and bring it over. It was like, it gave me Evil Dead vibes, but not in a good way. And so that I think was my low point. That's very specific. Oh, and how his wife Allie stood there with the gun pointed at Zepp for like 20 fucking minutes. She could have shot 50 times over. And
so true. Everybody who had a gun pointed at a bad guy just did not take advantage of, just like, I guess I'll stand here and pontificate for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Like, she stabbed him. That was great. But, like,
Yeah.
she lost the upper hand. It was so annoying.
Yeah. Sorry, now I'm thinking about that scene. That really didn't make sense because
Me too.
he just tried to kidnap and murder you and your child.
And he
you
was...
think you would not hesitate.
And he was pretty submissive about it. Like, as soon as she had the gun, he was like, arms up. Like, just fucking shoot him at that point. You don't have to kill him. Just, like, get him out of submission.
Shoot him in the leg.
Yeah,
That's
get him out of commission.
Don't hit the femoral artery, guys.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But just shoot him in the leg. Hit him in the knee. Mess his knee up good.
Yeah.
Right. If she had just shot him or done anything, incapacitated him in some way, things very much might have ended differently. So she's the real villain.
Monica Carter.
Maybe she's in on it. Who knows?
What about you, Jen?
Yeah, so I think, it's kind of basic, but my high point is the ending. I think it's really effective. I think it still works. I like the reveal of Jigsaw and then how they kind of show you all the hints that they'd laid throughout the movie all at once. So you're just like, oh, fuck, I could have put it all together if I thought hard enough. Like, it was all there. Which I do like, because I hate when movies have a twist ending where you never in a million years could have figured it out yourself. Where it's like, that's not a twist. That's just you making shit up at the end. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like Game of Thrones, where Bran takes the throne at the end, and it's like, no one guessed that because it's fucking stupid, you know? That's not a twist. That's just dumb.
Yeah.
So,
a twist for twist's sake, not for, like, the plot
exactly.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, I like that this was set up and it made sense to the plot and the movie, and it still worked. It's still effective. And then my low point is Cary Elwes' acting. So bad. So bad.
Yeah, it's actually, I still want an explanation for it, right? Like, did he have major surgery before? Or, like, what could have been the reason? He's not an actor, right?
Yeah.
Like, he should have done better.
He's a professional actor with decades of experience at that point, and he did a horrible job. So that is my low point.
Sad face. Quotes.
Quotes.
I have very few quotes, but I have a few. They're all Adam, pretty much.
Yeah.
He says, I went to bed in my shithole apartment and I woke up in an actual shithole. Because he does. That's a shithole.
Accurate statement.
Right. He also says, Dr. Gordon says, what's your name? And he goes, my name is very fucking confused. What's your name? He also says, this is the most fun I've had without lube, but I'm like, Adam, you're better than that.
Is he?
I want to believe he is. I'm kind of like on Adam's side. Maybe it's because he ends up in a real, like, the worst death of all. But
it does seem like
I was rooting for him.
Yeah, it does seem that, like, he didn't have any real reason to be there. I mean, none of them really did. I mean, this is not optimal for anyone, but, like, he was just doing a job.
Right, like, his big sin was being a paparazzi. Adam kind of got the raw end of the deal. Anyway, I think that's all I really have. He says a couple other crude things I don't really feel like repeating.
There was the time where he, like, stuck his hand down the toilet, and it was
Oh.
disgusting. But then he, like, opened the toilet bowl, and he was like, oh, I wish I stuck my hand in there first. And I was like, fair.
Right? Didn't you guys think that that's where he would have looked first? It was
Yeah.
on the
He just
tank.
went right for the shit.
He didn't even think about it or talk about it. He's just like, guess I gotta do that. No, you did not have to do that.
Gross.
Yeah, not a very quotable movie. There's a lot of kind of high-handedy Jigsaw quotes, too, where he's like, now you appreciate your life, but that's not quotable. It's boring.
The detective had a line to Lawrence where he was like, the sewer lines run under this neighborhood too, doctor.
Oh, yeah.
You burnt.
Trivia?
So, the budget for this movie was $1.2 million.
Oh, it's low.
Yep. Very, very low. And then the cumulative gross was $103.9 million, which makes
Damn.
this one of the highest grossing horror movies of all time. Saw 2 was approved for production on opening weekend of the first Saw, which is, like, basically unheard of. And it was filmed in 18 days. We talked about that. The bathroom scenes were filmed in chronological order, which I thought was cool. Jen, I'm sure you know all about the history of the movie if you want to talk to that. I don't know if you planned on talking about that at all, but The filmmakers made a movie out of college where they had basically challenged themselves to make this movie out of only having one room. And so they like made like a proto Saw essentially, which eventually became this movie, but that was kind of what sparked the interest in it. Danny Glover filmed his scenes in 2 days. This was the only Saw movie not filmed in Toronto.
Hey!
Oh, you're right. I do remember that the Saw sequels were from here.
Yeah.
Aww.
But it was the closing film at TIFF that year.
The closing film or the closing film of Midnight Madness?
I'm assuming of Midnight Madness, but it did
Okay.
say closing film.
I love the idea of it being the closing film, like gala Roy Thompson style. I truly want that to be what it was. Yeah.
No, let's just assume it was like
Yeah.
viewer's choice, like final Royal Hall Gala. So apparently, in a little bit more foreshadowing, 2 things for foreshadowing. There's apparently a plan for the reverse bear trap sitting on the hospital bedside table. So that would reveal that very early if you're really
If you
paying
caught
attention.
that.
Yeah, that sounds obscure.
Yeah, and apparently he's also holding, I guess in the hospital bed, he's holding the pen light that is later planted.
Ooh.
That
Who
makes-
is Dr. Gordon or John?
John is apparently holding Dr. Gordon's pen light. I have to watch that again to see, but apparently he's holding that.
I bet they even show Dr. Gordon probably put it down on the bedside table or the bed while he's doing his lecture.
Just maybe
And he
sneaks
palms it. Yeah.
And then the other bit of foreshadowing, which I guess we would not know because I don't think any of us have any real knowledge of guns and revolvers, but the gun that Lawrence loads to shoot Adam had all 6 chambers empty, and revolvers don't eject spent cartridges, and the person that was laying on the ground theoretically shot himself, so there should have been some cartridges in there.
You are right. I'm not a gun person. I never would have known that.
Yep. But it's cool. It's a cool little tidbit.
Do you want to know what else is interesting that I noticed?
Yes.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if this is going to come up, and maybe I hope I'm not jumping the gun.
That's all I had, so.
The literal gun.
Literally. But if the gun was in his left hand, so if he shot, the blood would have been coming out the right side, but it was coming out the left side towards Dr. Gordon.
Interesting.
Surprised that Dr. Gordon didn't pick up on this.
I was wondering about it if it was meant to be a hint, because it depends on how he fell, where it would drain to, but there still should have been a spray mark on the right. Like, there should have been more evidence. So, and also, like, if you looked at it, his wound was on this side of his body. So,
but maybe, like, because Dr. Gordon was on the wound side, maybe he didn't see the other side to know that there wasn't enough blood or wound over there.
But when I was looking at it, I was like, the gun should have been in his right hand, the way the scene was set.
Interesting.
Anyway,
speaking of, this is not important at all, but speaking of hands in which you are holding things, when Allie, is that his wife's name? Monica Potter? When she's holding the gun and then talking on the phone, she crosses, I think she's holding the gun in her left hand, and then she crosses over to speak with her left ear, or to listen with her left ear. And I was like, that's very odd. I mean, that's what I would do because I'm deaf in my right ear. But I was like, that seems like an odd, like, why would you make that motion? Like, cross her hands over.
I also wonder if we ever see her do anything in the movie that would indicate she's left-handed.
And deaf in one ear?
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, not important, but maybe laugh.
Interesting, though.
So what else came out in 2004?
We have covered 2004 before. Does anyone recall?
Oh, yes. The Grudge.
Yes. The shitty Grudge remake.
Austin's like, what? What now?
Yeah, she's like, excuse me.
I believe the shitty Grudge remake came out in 2020, but okay.
That was another shitty Grudge remake. But yeah, so the top grossing films of that year was, the number 1 movie of the year was Shrek 2. So
classic.
That's what 2004.
Oh, you know what else came out in 2004, Jen? Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed.
Wow, it did not make the top 10. That is so weird.
Shocking.
One of the movies that made the top 10, which was also referenced as a torture porn film, controversially, was Passion of the Christ. Which,
Ew.
you know what? I saw that movie. That was torture. Like, literal. They were just whipping a man for hours, so...
Yeah.
That was harder to watch than Saw. The Oscar movies that year were $1 Million Baby, The Aviator, Sideways. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind came out that year. I like that movie.
I feel like you said that exact thing when we watched The Grudge.
Probably. So in 2004, we also had a zombie movie that we covered, Shaun of the Dead, and a zombie movie we will cover in the future, Dawn of the Dead. So,
well, there you go.
It's a fun little teaser. We'll go back to 2004 eventually.
Yay.
So that is all from me. Are we ready to give our ratings?
Yes, I guess we are.
Are we? I don't want you to get excited about this.
Give it your 10 out of 10. Let's go.
I gave this movie for enjoyment a 7.5 out of 10. I know.
I'm
actually quite, I enjoyed this a whole lot more than I thought I would. I went into this thinking it was going to be the definition of torture porn and gore and all the stupid things I do not like. I thought it was going to be like gore flinch scares, you know, where it's like you're all of a sudden surprised by someone's face exploding, which I do not like. But it wasn't. It was not that. Like you said, it was smarter. It was an escape room, which was cool. It was terrible cops, even though I like watching cops do their work, even if they're terrible. It was interesting and it was unexpected. So I enjoyed it. Like a couple times I was like, right, you know, may move it along. But I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. And I only really got scared, I think, once.
This is like the happiest I've ever been. You never like my movies.
I know.
Finally.
I didn't want to give it to you, you know? I really thought about lying. And in terms of quality, I mean, I didn't really think about what I was going to rate this, but I'm going to give it like a 5. Like, I appreciate what they did with their budget, but it's like, it's pretty clunky. You can see a lot of the bad effects and choices, and the acting is abysmal. So I want to give it a 5 because they did a lot of innovative things and obviously with a very small budget, but I wouldn't call it a well-made movie.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
That's it.
Yeah, for enjoyment, I definitely enjoyed it more than, like, my enjoyment rating will be higher than my quality rating as well. But I think for enjoyment, I'm going to say like a 6. Like, it was good. I knew that it wasn't going to be as bad as the other ones in terms of the gross out factors of it. I knew that this one was more of a thriller. I thought it was good. But I think that the quality was bad enough that it took it down a few notches for me in terms of the enjoyment. Some of those transitions, some of the acting just didn't quite do it for me. The color scheme, like you mentioned, Jen, everything's just a little blue. Didn't enjoy that. And then for quality, I'm gonna give it a 5.
Nice. Okay. I don't want to like hype myself up, but like I genuinely thought you guys might like this one because like you said, it is a thriller. It's not super scary. It's not super gory. Like I was genuinely like, they're gonna like it. And if you didn't like it, I would have been very mad. I would have been like, this is for you. This is my version of what I like, but accessible to you. But for my own ratings, I'll say quality. I'm gonna, I'll do enjoyment first. That's how we do this. I remember how our podcast works.
Please remember.
Enjoyment, I'll give it like an 8. I do enjoy this movie. Like I said, every couple of years I'll watch the first 3 Saw movies, the only ones that I know exist. And I find them enjoyable still. I like this one. I think it's the best. I am entertained by it. That ending still gets me. I still think it's a really good ending. I get hyped when it happens. So, solid enjoyment rating. Quality, I don't know if I'm going to go as low as you guys did. Because even though it's low budget and dated, I think that they are able to do a lot with a little budget. And I love that in films. Like, I love the creativity of these kind of like first-time filmmakers coming up with all of this ways around certain things. So even though there's like a weird extra cuts, like I like that they were able to make so much out of so little. So quality-wise, I'll give it like a 7. The acting is terrible. The acting brings it down.
Yeah, I do respect it. Like, I think it's like Jackie said, like, it's cool to see what they did with so little, and I think they did do some innovative things, and obviously, like, it spawned this, like, massive franchise, and it's one of the highest grossing horror films of all time, so, like, respect. But
And it launched their careers. They're like
Yeah.
hardcore Hollywood. Oh, the director is James Wan, and the writer is Lee Winnell, who also played Adam, like I said. Other than Saw movies, they also did like Insidious. They launched like the Conjuring universe. James Wan directed like I think a Fast and Furious movie and like Aquaman. Lee Winnell did Invisible Man, which we just saw before lockdown.
Ooh, that was good.
Like, yeah, like they're like big Hollywood director writers now, like good careers, and it all came from this little indie.
Good for them. I don't begrudge them that. This, like sometimes I'm like, ugh, that sucked. They don't deserve success, but not these guys.
No, like it was, yeah, you could tell it was a shoestring budget, but they like stretched it to make it work.
So I think the friendometer is probably great. Oh,
yeah. Sorry. And one other little piece of trivia that I forgot to include. Apparently, they like didn't film enough shots. Like they didn't film enough to make a movie, and so they had to go in after and like do a lot of body double shots. Like all the shots of Amanda in the bear trap, all the close-up shots where it's just like her hands is Lee Winnell in a wig.
I love that.
And like there's a bunch of other scenes like that too, where they're just James Wan and Lee Winnell. I think at one point the detective Singh, I think when he dies, like that's someone else in like different.
Yeah, you can kind of tell because they don't show his above
face.
His shoulders.
Yeah. So there's, and like the security camera footage was filmed separately. Like they weren't in the same room, so it looks really jolted and weird.
I was gonna say, I think I'd heard that before, that the security footage they like added after the fact, and that's why like it looks like it's on an angle of the two of them, like it's like warped somehow, and it's because they had to like film it separately and try to splice it together to make it look like security footage.
Yeah, I actually thought it was just footage from two separate cameras.
But you only see one camera behind that glass.
Yeah, but there's a pane of glass beside it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I could tell it's so obvious it's like fishbowl-y, but I thought it was because it's two cameras. So anyway.
But I think that's really funny that they just didn't film enough movie.
Yeah. Well, like we said too, they were like fresh out of film school. They were probably just like, oh shit.
Yeah, how do you make a movie? What?
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, friendometer. Yeah,
my friendometer is green. I'm glad you guys enjoyed this movie. Like I said, I knew you would. But I do think this went over well. I'm pleasantly pleased.
Pleasantly pleased?
Pleasantly pleased.
Kill me.
And I think our friendometer has creeped up from the orange that it was in last week.
Oh, have you forgiven me?
I was editing that today. Oh my gosh.
Oh, look, she's doing it again with the like.
She's still mad.
But yes, so we're good. We're green.
My friendometer is red because I like it when you guys fight. I'm disappointed that everyone's green. That's boring. Just kidding. I'm also green. I thought I was going to hate you a lot after this, but I don't. Just the same regular amount.
So what's next week?
Oh god, it's Jackie's turn.
Is it Jackie pick?
Oh no.
Yeah. This one, I'm worried about. I'm concerned. I have reservations. So it's been probably 10 years since I've seen it. And I'm not sure what you guys are going to think. But it is Cliffhanger. What? Sylvester Stallone climbing that mountain. He gonna climb. I think there's going to be a lot to say about this movie. Maybe not good things. I don't remember I don't remember big parts of the plot. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least. That's it. We're watching Cliffhanger. We're going back to Stallone.
All right.
You guys look real excited.
Yeah, I'm
feeling super positive.
Pumped about it. I think it's going to be really good. All right, so that wraps up Saw. We got through it. We survived. And next week we're going to watch Cliffhanger, which I might not. And then I might not survive. I'll watch it, but I might not.
Okay. The watching is what I care about. The survival, less so.
If you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can find us at I Hate Your Taste, or on Instagram, I Hate Your Taste Pod. We also have a website. It's IHateYourTasteInMovies.wordpress.com, and there are links there to our merch. If you'd like to support us, you can find us on Buy Me a Coffee. It's buymeacoffee.com/IHateYourTaste. And if you like what we're doing, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. It's really, really helpful. Thanks for listening. Bye.